And I remember I had someone contacted, like DM me on Instagram, and they said, I really appreciate your art because you make things that don't have to be good. And I said, yeah, that hurts my feelings a little, but
Welcome to Keep the Flow, the podcast that looks under the hood of the creative process to keep your creative engine humming. I'm your host, Scott McLemore, a drummer and composer living way up north in Iceland. And this is the first video on this channel, so please do all the things that people do on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment. I'd love to hear what you think of the interview. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to myself from last week to introduce the guest. Enjoy. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited and nervous. This is literally the second interview I've ever done, but I am so lucky to have this guest today. And you're lucky that you tuned in. My first exposure to her was through Instagram. I can't remember how I found it or if it found me, but I'm not sure how long ago it was, maybe like 2 years ago, but I immediately felt this connection to her work. And she makes art that can be funny, quirky, and yet gets at something profoundly human. She's part of the Printmakers Collective, which does community outreach through educational workshops. And her Instagram handle is number 4 soft taco. I'll ask her about that later. It's my honor to have as my guest today, Pat Rosario. Hi, Pat. Welcome to Keep the Flow.
thank you for having me.
So I'd like to start just by saying I'm a huge fan. Maybe that's obvious, but I'm really thankful that you decided to do this. It seemed like it was not an easy decision for you, which I can totally understand. I'm kind of asking myself, what the hell am I doing with every episode I put out? So I get the hesitation.
Oh no, I feel like I'm internally melting. I feel like I could talk about my interests forever, but if anybody asked me about me, I never know anything.
Well, it took a while to put this together, and I've been traveling and you've been busy. I'm actually in the northern part of Iceland right now doing some skiing in a town called Akureyri and close to the Arctic Circle. And you're in Tennessee, is that right?
Right? Middle Tennessee. I live in a small rural town.
But you're not originally from there, right?
No, I was born on the island of Puerto Rico.
So how did you come to live in Tennessee and with chickens, no less?
Yes. So when I was around 8 years old, my parents decided they were going to follow the American dream and move us to the mainland, or more specifically, Florida. So it was a skip jump, moved to Florida. We got to go to Disneyland or Disney World, and then kind of went from there.
So first Orlando and then Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Well, then
All
there
right.
was Tallahassee, because that's where I went to college for Florida State, and then
Okay.
Tennessee,
All right.
which wasn't even supposed to be where I lived. It was Tennessee was momentary, and then I wanted either California or New York. And somehow I never left.
I have a friend from Tennessee who's actually coming to visit in a few months,
Really?
but
What
from
part?
Nashville.
Oh, really? That's where I
Yeah.
lived for
Oh,
6
yeah?
years before we moved to Tullahoma.
It's supposed to be really nice there.
I love it. We go
Yeah.
very frequently. We're only about an hour and a half away.
Are you into music as well?
Yes. So I played the ukulele before I ever got into printmaking, which it was the only thing that stuck. I did knitting, crochet, I made soap, scrubs, lotions. Like I did my own journals, bind books,
Like
bound
bookbinding?
books, bookbinding. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
So, there's nothing that I didn't try, but ukulele was the first thing that I did and then stuck with it.
So when you go to Nashville, are you going there to see concerts, or you have are you a music fan, or?
I used to go to a lot of punk shows back in my youth, but then when we had children, we haven't been doing very many shows at all, um, since they're pretty rambunctious, I would say. But mostly for the art scene, strangely enough, is what we do Nashville for, and for the cultural events.
So how did you tell me, how did you become an artist, or how did you get into the printmaking scene?
So, going all the way back, as a child, I was always into art, being creative, whether it was drawing, painting, or writing. So words are really important, or like how words and like the visual aspects of art collided. So it came like innately from childhood. But when I was doing school, once I got to about high school and we were doing like the advanced placement and we were doing college courses, by we, I mean I, it felt like there was nothing but school. Like there was nothing but doing your assignments, get enough rest to exist the next day. And when it went into college, it was the same thing. I feel like I didn't really have much an identity other than education late through high school and then all of college. So when I was accepted into like my PsyD program in Miami, and I saw ahead of me all these years of further education, it was like total collapse. And I said no, moved instead to Nashville, decided to work at a vegan restaurant. Said, whatever, who cares about a degree? Worked at a vegan restaurant, and then I was surrounded nonstop by art and music. And it felt like I could finally have a pause and exist beyond like standard education. And that's where I met my partner, who is an artist. He's a working artist. And he was part of this collective and was part of a print shop. So he was teaching a screen printing class. This is a very, let's get to the point. He was teaching a screen printing class.
I'm sorry, I just
No,
was going to ask, is the collective you mentioned, is that the Printmakers
no,
Collective, the thing
no,
that
it
I
was a
mentioned?
different
No,
one.
okay.
This was an
Okay.
in-person one in Nashville. The Printmakers Collective is more international and has like an online presence. But they were also doing a block printing workshop the same time as the screen printing workshop. And that's the first time I block printed. And I made a little abdomen of like a pregnant belly because I was pregnant at the time. And I was hooked, addicted. Like we got the materials, I was working on it. I did like 3, one after the other, and then I didn't touch it again for 8 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you fell in love with this thing and then you just stopped for 8 years.
For 8 years. Yeah, never did it again. It was, I had my son and we knew he was on the autism spectrum, but I didn't have a diagnosis at all. So for me, it was just like navigating motherhood and navigating this wonderful person that, had like a very strong perception of the world while he was like learning to exist.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much I was all I could do is just be a mom at that time. And then I had 2 more daughters, and then that was a lot. And then once COVID hit and I quit my job, and all of a sudden I had all this extra time. And I was like, hey, that's great. Like that block printing I did that one time 8 years ago. Why don't we pick that up again?
So do you think was this something that you had sort of in the back of your mind, like it was always calling to you and you just were waiting for the right opportunity to get back to it, like you were putting it
All
on
the
hold?
time. Yes,
Okay.
it was 100% a pull when I would, in that momentary silence between infant wake up calls in the middle of the night, and you wonder, like, how did I lose myself? How when am I ever going to get back to who I was before? I guess that isn't even possible, right? Like, how am I going to get to be the person that I want to be, or that I pictured that maybe I could be? Art and music were always in the forefront of how I want, or I guess how I identified as an individual. And having had lost that was strange. Like, I wasn't doing much of anything. I wasn't writing, I wasn't creating. I was just helping little children grow and keeping myself alive. So as soon as I got an opportunity, yeah, I did everything to make it happen, and it's basically one of the best things I've ever done for myself.
I was just remembering one of the pieces that you made is I can't remember what the actual image is, but it says you raised an entire human and all you got was this lousy print.
I think isn't it like is it a mug with flowers? Maybe. I don't think I have it. But yeah, I made that for my mom for Mother's Day.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
That's great.
Because my mom has always been my biggest supporter. I'll send her whenever I do all my prints. I'll send her a shot, like a picture through text. She hypes me up.
So you mentioned you have 3 kids. I have 2 myself. Do you feel like you found a balance between the family and your creative side, or is there like some overlap? I know for us, like my wife is also a musician,
Mm-hmm.
and both of our daughters play music, and there is just like an amazing amount of overlap in our house, like where the family time or the music time, it's all mixed up. It's a noisy house. How about you?
No, it's definitely intertwined. It's what makes it possible. All my children love the arts and they love music. And if I am in my studio area creating, like, they are an arm length away, and we have little stamping steps for them, and they've carved blocks, and they love working with ink, and like they'll cut paper with me, and they'll help me with packaging. Like, my kids love to make, especially painting. But with in regards to a balance, I didn't realize that when I was since what was happening is I would find something, like when I finally got into printmaking, all I could think about was printmaking. And I was like, how am I gonna do this thing when you have to do 3 meals a day and 2 snacks and like doctor's appointments and bedtimes? And really all I could think about was, here's this illustration I have in mind. And then I would sit down to do it, and I would be surprised by like how quickly time would pass. And so it wasn't until recently, like the last year, when I got my diagnoses and I was able to put a name to things and be like, this is what I have to contend with, and this is how I can process it, and this is how I can like engage my children so it doesn't feel like things are a disruption, right? And that's what made a huge difference, because now I can say, like, this is my day for printing and prepare the children for that. And then this is my day for like making sure that my children are getting like extra special time together. And that's what works for us too.
Yeah, I mean, this came up when we were DMing leading up to this, that you mentioned that you had an autism diagnosis, and
Right.
and so do I. And it's a similar kind of thing. Like I don't know when you got yours. Like was that
Last year.
like since you become a parent though?
Yeah,
Last year?
last year.
Okay.
It was
Yeah, I mean
hard.
like yeah, I didn't get mine until I guess it's been like 2 maybe 3 years ago, something like that. But I mean, it's like really kind of late to find out something like that, and it changes your whole approach to yourself in a way. You know, you don't want to use it as an excuse, but at the same time, you know, you can't expect yourself to do certain things, or to you can't put like certain pressures on yourself. And I actually like my most recent album is called Knowing, and I called it that because it changed everything for me, like knowing what the deal was.
So I was diagnosed when I was a teenager with bipolar disorder. So, they were mentioning the highs and the lows, which for the longest time I was being told I was having depressive episodes. And I would go, I don't feel like this is a depressive episode. I don't feel depressed. I feel exhausted. Like I feel winded. I feel drained. I feel like depleted. I mean, I can think of all the words. So it's the same thing. I was staying up really late trying to do the things that when my mind was telling me that I should get done, that I needed to do. And I felt like an absolute failure. I thought there was something wrong with me as a human being. And I thought if I just ignore enough, if I push past enough, and I will achieve adulthood. I will achieve peak member of society. And I kept getting worse and worse. Who would have thought I wasn't getting any rest? And I was putting myself in all these like environments and in situations that would completely wreck me. And I'd be like, man, you were so bad at being alive. You should be better. Like, just do more of those things, right? Because you get told if you push past your
Mhm.
comfort zone, but that had nothing to do with my comfort zone. I wasn't giving myself any more time to regulate or ground myself or even just have moments of peace. So I was just in constant burnout and
And this
miserable.
is, I mean, this is hard. I mean, today it's really hard to find those moments. 'Cause there's so
Mhm.
many. I mean, like everybody who has a smartphone knows. It's like there's always things to distract you, or I mean, being bored is, I mean, that's like being bored was a huge chunk of my childhood. But
Right.
as an adult, I have to schedule time for being bored. I have to make an effort.
It really, that is so true. Oh my goodness. And I tell my children will come to me and they'll be like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I'll be like, good. I was like, sit in that. Enjoy that moment. Enjoy. I'm always, I have to tell myself. I don't know who it was, and I wish I'd written it down, but I saw a TikTok that said that if you have ADHD or any sort of neurodivergence, you should play like bird sounds. And
Bird
then
sounds.
yeah, I forgot all about it because I say, hey, I'm going to try something, and then I don't. I'll bookmark it, and then it won't exist. But we got chickens, and I was brooding them in my bathroom, and I'm like doing my print work, and then sometimes you have that obligation over your head of like I said, you have to make lunch, but you got to get these orders done, and like the kids are fighting about something, and you need to go deal with that. And so I'll feel like myself getting dysregulated and like trying to rush and then making all sorts of mistakes and then like not being able to deal with that emotionally. And then I noticed that that wasn't happening this one day in particular, and that I was able to slow down and pay attention and like navigate things as they came to me. And I was like, it's the birds. I can hear the birds.
Yeah.
They were just chirping away, just being real cute, making all their sounds. And I was like, man, that person whose name I can't remember really was right. Like that sound grounded me. And so now when I print, I put like nature sounds on, and I can slow down, and like I don't feel that tension. I don't feel that anxiety, and I can create this little space for myself to actually be bored and not feel like I need to reach for my Instagram or my TikToks or my, what is that new thing, Thread? Like I don't even.
Threat, yeah. I haven't spent much time with that. I've joined it, but I don't really know. But yeah, so do you hang out with the chickens sometimes? Do you just like that sounds like it could be therapeutic.
Oh, I live with the chickens. I have a little chair and a little table, and I put my coffee on there, and that's how I spend my morning before my demands start. We're best friends,
Nice.
me and this chickens.
Wow.
I have quail too.
Oh, wow. You're diversifying.
The quail are in the front of the house. The chickens are in the back. Just depends where I want to hang out. I can have a bird nearby.
So I've heard that time with animals is a way to make oxytocin, one of the chemicals in our brain that sort of gives us I don't know if it's joy, but it's some sort of like happy. It's like a happy chemical, you
Like a
know.
little high, like a natural
It
high.
it is, but it's like this sort of it gives you like that warm fuzzy feeling, you know. So I mean, I noticed a huge difference with our family when we got a dog. It was a huge thing, and I mean, I guess it works with all animals.
What kind of
Probably. I
dog
mean,
do you
you
have?
also have cats. What was that?
What kind of dog do you have?
Oh, we have a Labrador, a black lab.
Oh,
Hmm. Penny. Yeah.
I've
Pen-
I've said that. Well, I mean, because we have the quail and chickens, and we have 3 cats and a dog. But then we had to get, like, we only had 1 cat, and I was needing another cat, and then after that we needed another cat because I needed to always be cuddling something, but I also want to respect their bodily autonomy.
yeah.
So I need enough pets to cycle through for when they don't want to be touched.
Okay. Like, yeah, this one's had enough. Let's move to the next one.
So,
Wow.
so the other day, nobody wanted to cuddle, and I was just like, I need another cat.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I thought I'd jump in here and just let you know that there's actually more of this interview over on Patreon. As I said at the beginning, this is a brand new channel and I don't have any sponsors, so if you'd like to support it and you like what I'm doing and would like more of it, including early access to episodes, bonus content, and extended interviews, click the link down below to head on over to Patreon. Right now you can do a free trial so you can see what it's all about. Also, this might be the first video I've uploaded, but it's actually the 12th episode of Keep the Flow. So if you're into audio podcasts, I'll also put a link down below for that. And now, back to the interview.
So I feel like I should address your success on Instagram since that's where I found you.
No, yeah.
Your account has, last I checked, more than 29,000 followers, which is a good bit more than mine. So I guess my question is, can I have some of your followers?
No, I like my phone. I mean, you can share them. You can share them.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of
That
like,
sounds great. No, but
um,
can you just talk about your experience there? Like what happened? Was it an overnight success and do you have like some sort of social media strategy or was it just by accident?
I think it was an accident. I think people were tricked into thinking they were led to believe something. No, I think it started out fine. Slowly. Did I get blurry? Oh, there you go.
Are you blurry?
I was blurry.
You look okay to me.
It started out slowly, but I found my community really, really quickly, like these amazing people. And like the kind of people that want to see your work and they appreciate your work and they comment on your work and they share your work and they're like it's kind of like personal as opposed to just like quickly swiping. And so it wasn't much after that that I joined, like that we got involved with Printmakers Collective, and that picked up a lot of steam. And since it was like intertwined, me and the Printmakers Collective, I feel like that gave me all of a sudden like a really big boost because of the conversations and the community building. And it was like a lot of people that were feeding into the Printmakers Collective was kind of also interacting with me. And I feel like that made Instagram go, oh, wait, I think people like this person. And so then that started picking up. And so within, I believe, like the first 9 months, I had 13,000 followers, which I never would have expected
In 9 months?
in nine
Is
months.
that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then I got really sad and tired. And then it felt like everything felt like too much. Like there was the collective and there was my need to create, but also the need to like feed the algorithm and like family and pets and laundry. I talk a lot about laundry because I can't stand it. But so then I had to like just like had to pull away and just quit suddenly and do nothing. And I don't think I made art for 4 months.
Wow. Okay. I missed that. I don't know. I don't know if I was already following you then, but yeah, like I said, I think it's been like maybe 2 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard because life keeps going, right? Like things keep happening. Like you have to register your car and then you have to like dentist appointments every 6 months. And then there's somebody's birthdays, geez. So I feel like time and things get away from you. But with that said, like I said, I had a fantastic community. So I've heard a lot about when you drop off and you stop posting on Instagram and like you end up losing a lot of followers and the algorithm doesn't favor you because you were away and they want something that's like constantly feeding. And then, but that was not the case for me. I came back and I was like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not a great person. Stop talking to everybody for 4 months all of a sudden with no warning. And everyone was so supportive and so understanding and made me feel so human. And that was around the time I got my diagnosis. So I was able to like understand my triggers and what helps me and what motivates me and what inspires me. And I was able to like cling to that. And when I found out that when you sleep, you just feel like a better person. And like I just
I
need
have
a lot of
noticed that.
sleep. I need a lot of sleep. And I was only getting like 5 hours maybe before. And now
Wow.
I gotta get my solid 10, okay? 10 hours a day.
So you mentioned napping when
Mm-hmm.
we were messaging. Is so you have like set nap times?
Around 2 p.m. I got a nap. I need a nap
Okay.
in my afternoons. And then
Well,
when
I'm
I
glad I
don't,
didn't interrupt your nap time. This for this.
yeah, I had to print today. So it's Monday, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mondays are my printing days. So I've been printing. That interrupted my nap time. And I'll get grumpy, but I'll just take one later. It's okay.
So I mentioned you in an earlier episode and um that you offer a subscription on on Instagram, which I had never heard of. Is that
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah,
Or the
when you have like the business page, do you have your page is it business or is it personal?
I
Doesn't
think I
matter.
can't remember. I think I tried it. I think I've switched it back and forth a few times, and I can't remember where it's set now.
So when you do whatever the business page is, I think Instagram just throws you whatever new thing is, and they bring it up. So the subscription thing was just highlighted, and I had tried to do a Patreon before, and I signed up, And I got to the point where like asked me about the levels and I became quickly overwhelmed. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. So when Instagram did the subscriptions, I was like, this is perfect. You just put whatever low tier. And so I believe I set it for $1. Just that if you wanted or appreciated or enjoyed. And surprisingly, people signed up that they liked me enough for $1 a month.
That's great. I mean, I can't remember who it was that said like, all you need is 1,000 true fans,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like if you get, I mean, if that's if everybody's paying, if you have 1,000 people that are paying $1 a month, it's $1,000.
Yeah,
Just
you're golden.
so
I
that's not
and
bad.
mm-hmm. Passive, something that just happens without extra
Hmm.
effort. And I think when you have something like an ADHD or an autism diagnosis, and when you do, I've never, like, I think I mentioned to you that how I did it was I quit my job. So when COVID hit, and okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. And two, I don't even know if I answered your question about my Instagram. Yeah, but basically it was a fluke.
Yeah.
But when it
We're on
comes to
track.
this, forgot what I was going to say.
Do you want to check your notes?
It
Oh, I
was
have
about,
notes. I just feel like I'm cheating here because I have all this stuff written down.
what was the
But
question after the subscription? We were talking about Instagram. Oh, the 1,000 people. That's what we were talking about.
right, yeah.
And I was saying that my followers and basically just my friends are absolutely amazing. Like I have gotten so lucky. I was just talking to one of my friends about the fact that like I go on TikTok and people are kind of mean. I love TikTok. It's like my thing to do when I'm just laying there and I feel like I can't move.
You said they're mean,
They're mean. Like they have so many things to
but
say. They
that's why you like
correct.
it?
No, I don't. I don't like that.
Oh.
I
Oh,
like
okay.
watching the videos, but I stay out of the comments because someone always
Okay.
has something rude to say, and that has never been my experience on Instagram. Everyone's always so supportive and kind and uplifting and wonderful. And so when all these changes happen, and this is why it ties back to that 1,000 followers, like I make my money off of selling prints, right, on Etsy. And if Instagram doesn't sell or doesn't show my work to anybody for whatever reason that day, I don't make as many sales, right?
Hmm.
But I haven't been impacted at all because like I just have repeat or people that keep coming back to my shop and sometimes they order the same exact print again and I'm just like feel so lucky.
Yeah. They just maybe because they want to give it to somebody else, or
Yeah, I assume so. But
yeah.
yeah, like I always have a really steady, no matter how poorly my posts do, I always have a really steady amount of sales. But just because I have these group of people that feel strongly enough about my art that they do want to financially support me, and I still can't believe people want my art in their house. Honestly,
Well, I just ordered one today.
I did.
So
Oh, I saw it.
yeah.
And I didn't know your mom and your stepdad's name, so I literally wrote
Well, my dad and my stepmom.
to
Yeah.
your dad and your stepmom. So I literally wrote on the card, I was like, to Scott's dad and stepmom. Because usually
Great.
put people's name. And I felt like
Thanks.
I was back in high school because that's how I always referred to my friends' parents is such and such is mom or dad.
Why I have to ask, speaking of Instagram, why number 4 soft taco? What is the story behind that?
So
I'm
that's
sorry
what
if
I was
I've
gonna
touched on a
say.
sensitive subject here.
That's what I was mentioning before I forgot my train of thought. It was when I quit my job because of COVID and that pesky sense of justice. I've never been able, that's what I was going to say. I've never been able to maintain a job. And that's why I feel so lucky for the dedicated followers that I do have because they make it possible that I can make my money through making the art, which is the only thing I've been able to do as long as I have, because I've always quit jobs because of some odd thing here or there. And now I'm losing my train of thought again. I should have taken notes. How are we talking about again? We were.
But what about but why that name?
number
Number
4.
4 Soft Talk. Yeah.
So when I quit my job, I decided I'm going to make art. This is going to be the thing. This is what's going to justify my leaving my job. And I needed a username really, really fast, because I knew that if I walked away from my computer, this was it. I was never going to do anything ever again. And so I looked through my notes to see if anything sparked, because like I said, I don't know anything about myself. So I couldn't possibly make a username that reflects my identity, because I am no one and nothing collectively, if you ask me. And so I found my sister's Taco Bell order from one time that we were at my parents' house, and my dad was going to pick up Taco Bell. So I wrote everybody's orders in my little note app, and hers was a number 4 soft taco, or I guess a number 4 with a soft taco that just got shortened to number 4 soft taco, and that's who I am now. Thanks to my sister.
Wow.
I couldn't have done it without her. In fact, when
Can you imagine if she had ordered a chalupa? I mean, that would have been horrible.
that would have changed the whole, what did they say about the little butterfly wings? That would have changed the trajectory of everything in the world.
I know.
And, I hadn't, because it was just such a throwaway name, to throw such a throwaway account, because I have no followers. I'm just this person who's never made art before. I'm not an artist. I'm just some lady with kids and chickens. And so when it didn't strike me to even think about my username until Pressing Matters contacted me. And then you can tell, you had my thing here, and there it was, number 4 soft taco. And I was like, dang, that's why people have to pick their usernames, with some forethought.
I picked out 3 pieces of yours to describe, because I don't know if we're actually going to use any of this video, but for people that are listening, I'll try to describe it. And there's no way that I could possibly do these justice with my description. So I recommend that everybody go and check out Pat's Instagram to see these. But the first one, there's an image of a pitcher with measuring lines on it, and we can see what looks like liquid in the bottom third. In the liquid are the words "Stop ignoring your needs." And this hit me right between the eyes when I first saw it, because that's exactly what I was doing. But it feels like there's an urgency to this. I don't mean to overanalyze it, but to me there's this tension in the image that has to do with the perspective. And this is maybe just due to your style, but at the top you've shown the depth with the opening of the picture, and then you do the same for the liquid, but the measuring lines and the bottom are flat.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, does that signify that when we become empty, we lose perspective? Or am I just reading too much into it? What is it?
No,
what does this mean to you?
I'm not reading it into it at all. It's kind of like how you lose sight of yourself. You lose cohesiveness. You lose. Feels odd talking about it, because it's very internalized when I do everything, but I'll bounce images to my partner, because he's an artist too, and he'll go, "Oh, you're losing the composure of your image here, because like you said, you curved here and you curved here," and I have to be like, "No, that's on purpose." Like, that's stylized. That's like, there's a point to that. Like, it's distortion. I always say I'm a good person when my needs are met. Like, I know who I am in a sense of like routine and neurological regulation when I have my needs met. And then when you spread yourself thin, right? Like you're pulling things unravel really quickly.
Okay. So, wow.
But that's one of my favorites. So I'm glad you brought it up because
Yeah, me too. Great.
I feel like all my art is the things that I wish someone had said to me, I guess. Like things people I think, I don't know, I feel like if the universe could just pick you up and cradle you and like shh, like I wanted to say these things. So I just put it out into the world in any way I can.
Reminds me of a quote I heard from do you know who Gary Shandling is or was? He
But I can
used to
Google
have
it.
a show called the Larry Sanders Show, which was kind of like it was like a fictitious talk show. Like he was a talk show host, but he's a comedian, actor comedian. But he had this quote, "Give what you didn't get," and that was kind of like his motto, how he lived life. And that sort of reminds me of that when you say you want to put these things on your art that you wish you had been told.
Right. That's a good
Yeah.
quote. Man, no, I'm mad I didn't think of that.
Well, now you can use it.
Just use the direct quote.
Sure.
In
What
another
the heck?
container.
So, all right, number 2. This is an image which looks like a bag, and there's a face on it, which looks a little sad to me. And under the face, it says, "We are all humans with bodies." And this also struck me because it's saying we're all the same, but it's a bag. It's not a human, even though it's saying it. And I guess I see this and I feel like some of us are carrying a lot more than others, like a bag.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here for you?
So when I was in school, I have a background in psychology and sociology, and my focus was eating disorders. So when I was working, I worked at a rehabilitation center for people with eating disorders, and I couldn't do it because, what is the word? Starts with an R. Can't remember it. Won't even try. But the reoccurrence, I guess, rate of people with eating disorders in treatment is astronomically high. And I suffered through it myself when I was, well, I guess your whole life. You never are cured from an eating disorder. Okay. And when I was diagnosed, I realized that there's like a really odd relationship anyways when it comes to autism and food. Like I do suffer from food aversions, like intense food aversions and like really specific texture difficulties, and seeing how that played out. But that print comes from like my journey of overcoming like the idea, I guess, like your wish to have an ideal Western beauty body, and like healing my relationship with food that at the time I thought was based on my eating disorder, but then it turns out it was something else as well. And also kind of appreciating the thing that makes everything I do possible, like makes my art possible, as opposed to nitpicking and finding ways and reasons to hate it. But also the duality of not just like the hate. It's like I could go in so many different directions because you have ageism, you have like especially in the Western world, so how much we vilify aging, as well as how much we vilify like parts of our community, like the transgender community, right? So it's like there's so many ways you could take that. Really, it was about body positivity and about acceptance, and about, instead of focusing on our differences and our imperfections, that we just value ourselves and each other.
The third one and last. So there's a recurring character of yours, which, and I'm trying to be polite here, but seems lumpy. It has no face, but kind of a blocky head, no neck, a generous torso, and skinny legs. And in this one, it's sitting kind of slumped over, and on the body it says, I will convince myself of beautiful things. To me, this seems like it's about keeping the flow of creativity going, like showing up when we don't feel like it, being an artist through sheer willpower. What's your take on it?
So you're pretty much right there. It was like pushing. Well, for one, the blob it's a self-portrait, basically. When I draw my blob, I'm drawing me.
It looks
And
nothing like you.
you don't think? I mean,
So
there's
does
some,
it have a name?
no,
No,
but
okay.
they are my absolute favorite thing to draw. And they say that so when there's someone outside my door. When I'm stuck, when I feel like I want to draw, but I can't think of anything, I always draw blob, and they always get me out of my slump. But we're talking about, right? So just like that print was about the 4 months that I took off, and how I was really struggling, like emotionally and honestly physically. I felt like I was dying, and
Wow.
how there were moments where there wasn't. I felt like there was nothing that I could appreciate because everything felt so overwhelming at the time. It wasn't like I knew there were things that made life worth living. I knew that there were things, but it felt so loud and so uncertain, and the anxiety levels were so high all the time that there was no space to take any of those in or to enjoy them. So that was a really big callback to once I was diagnosed and once I got past like that big reevaluating of everything I've ever done, said, and been, and then just kind of caught my breath. And how do you keep moving forward from this? And it's by convincing yourself of beautiful things, right?
And just convincing yourself that beautiful things exist. Is that kind of
Right,
what you're thinking? Like, because right at that point, you're not sure they do. Like, nothing really looks
right.
beautiful to you. Wow.
And that even, and I think someone commented this down below, because it was a very important part of it too, because it's not just convincing yourself, it's that you're going to make them too. And I think that was the most crucial part. It's like when you're in the mindset of finding the beautiful and finding the value and taking the time to Because I mean, like, just like you need that space for boredom, you need that place for rest, and you need that time to like just sit there and appreciate it and go, wow, and be in awe, right? And to know that you're capable of making those things for yourself too. And when I'm a perfectionist by nature, and the thing that I told myself when I started making art was that that was not how I was going to approach my art. And I remember I had someone contacted, like DM me on Instagram, and they said, I really appreciate your art because you make things that don't have to be good. And I said, yeah, that hurts my feelings a little, but that was the point. You got my point. Yes, I made myself promise that I was gonna make art that was fun and enjoyable and spoke to me and had a message, but was mostly just a great outlet. And it wasn't like I'm gonna make the perfect work of art with the best lines and lovely texture and whatever.
Right.
So I mean, just the concept of like it's something that is beautiful and telling and speaks to you. It doesn't have to be perfect or great even. And yeah, like taking that second to make even like the silliest doodles. Like my one of the things that has gotten the biggest support when I posted them was like my tiny soup block.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the easiest thing to do, and I did it in 2 seconds. And it like I printed on my clothes, I printed everywhere. My house covered in tiny soup. Probably I want to be remembered for tiny soup. I want, if there's ever an autobiography, instead of my picture on the back cover, it's tiny soup.
So, but you have not, correct me if I'm wrong, but you haven't made any tacos.
Nope, no tacos. Strange, right? Made
Very odd, because it's almost like false advertising. I mean, people come to the Instagram and they're expecting to see some soft tacos and not a one.
I've let everybody down. I've even had people be like, if you printed a taco, I would buy the taco from you. And I was like, I've tried and I can't get the taco stylized enough to where I'm happy with it. Hot dogs I'll do day and
Yeah,
night.
hot dogs are very similar to tacos in a way. Hot dogs like the white man's taco.
You're right. It's a carb with a protein and sauces on top.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
have to work on it, and I'll dedicate it to you.
oh, thank you. Well, this has been amazing. I think I've taken up way more of your time than we thought, but I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. It's been amazing. And listeners, I will put links to Pat's Instagram, TikTok, and Etsy accounts. You owe it to yourself to go and check out her work. And Pat, really, thanks. And look me up if you ever make it to Iceland. Great to talk to you.
Thank you. It was a joy being here.
So that's all I've got today. An extended version of my interview with Pat Rosario is over at Patreon. So pop over to patreon.com/Scott McLemore for more. Thanks again to Pat for this incredible chat. Didn't mean to rhyme there, and thanks to my family for tolerating me doing this interview during our ski trip. And with that, I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, keep the flow.